So far is the Chicago Convention, 1944. Quick recap of everything we spoke about, and then we move on to the next chapter of air law. Why do we need the air law? To keep the aviation safe. Why do we need ICAO? To regulate the aviation industry. Every country has their own rules and regulations, and that needs to be followed. Somebody needs to enforce the rules and regulations. That's ICAO. ELP, English Language Proficiency Test. Level 4 is the minimum, level 5 is good, level 6 is the best. We spoke about that. Go on. The other guy going in the opposite direction has to go 2,500, 4,500, 6,500. So these are altitude separations. So rules and regulations are made to make sure that you are safe. Sovereignty. Article 1, no taking control of the other country's airspace. Article 2, territory, defining where your airspace stops and starts, which is over your land, over your water, is your complete territory. We then spoke about the right of flight. You can literally fly anytime without prior permission, but you have to take instant permissions. Something we already covered up. I was touching upon this. If you're flying out of a country, and you don't have a lot of international airports, you can still make sure that a custom officer is available in the country. That's what we spoke about here. Article 11, applications of air. Now, this chapter obviously will have 96 articles from the Chicago Convention, and on top of that there are lots and lots of additions as well. So this chapter is going to make sure that you know how to be safe. When you're flying in the air, you just have to be safe. The applicability air regulation, this is very important. If you're flying in the air, what are the rules and regulations of the air? Aircraft must comply with the air navigation laws and procedures of the state or the country you're flying in. If your plane is flying in my country's airspace, you have to make sure that you're following my rules and regulations. That is also sovereignty, right? Because of the sovereignty, that is applicable. Rules of the air. This is the rules for avoiding, accidents. This is the part where we talk about planes avoiding each other by both turning right if you're in a head-on collision. We will speak about overtaking. We will speak about if two planes are coming towards each other with a 90-degree angle, who's got the right of way. So let's look at the first one, right? These are the general ones. Now, first of all, the ICAO rules. But in some cases, the ICAO rules could be a little bit different because the states have the right to choose their own regulations and so on. Yep. Article 16 talks about the search of the aircraft. What do you mean by the search of the aircraft? The search of aircraft. Now, there are two things you can think of. Search of aircraft as in a plane is lost, has crashed, and you're looking for it. But the other thing is looking physically for something suspicious in the plane. And that's what they're talking about. Once you've landed in a country, or even if it's not your different country, even if it's your own country, the civil aviation authorities, the ICAO, has given the full right under the Article 16 to search your aircraft for any suspicious objects or even the documentation. Passenger manifest at the plane and the plane looks awfully in a bad condition. Don't you want to make sure that the plane is safe enough to fly? I want to know if it has the airworthiness certificate. I want to know if it is maintained well. I want to know if the plane is legally allowed to even fly. Is it safe enough to fly? Sure, maybe it's not your passengers which are under risk, but that plane is going to fly through your airspace. God forbid, while it's flying out of your airspace, out of your country, something goes wrong with that plane and it crashes into your population. That is dangerous. So you being the state, you being the government or the civil aviation authority of that country, want to make sure that the planes coming in and out of your country are safe. Have all the documentations, have all the checks being done, all the maintenance being done on time. So you have the right under the Article 16 to check any suspicious aircrafts, or even without a suspicion, a random general check of all the documentation. Do the pilots who are flying the plane have the right certification? Does the aircraft have the registration certification? Does it have any suspicious, activities? All of that can be checked. Article 23, Customs and Immigration. We touched up on this topic, right? When I spoke about the private jet incident, taking off from an uncontrolled airspace, that's what I was talking about. As long as a custom officer, immigration officer is present, even if it's a uncontrolled airfield, it becomes equivalent to a custom. But you cannot go outside the country without getting clearances from your immigration and custom officers. Yep, even if it's a Cessna 172 or a Diamond DA-40, a single engine, 2-seater, 4-seater aircraft. The rules apply the same way it would apply to a big airliner. Make sense? States can establish custom-free airports. Look at that. We can have custom-free airports so that if you buy spare parts, oil, fuel, or anything in that area, you don't have to pay the customs of that country. Maybe you're not even planning on staying in that country, just visiting that country. And while you're parking for a few hours until your clients come back from their meetings, you have certain requirements. You have to have some kind of a custom. So states can establish, by the way, the word country. You're a passenger or somebody in transit, or you're someone who just landed for a few hours. You're buying fuel and you're paying that 20%, 18% taxes. It's going to that country, but you're not going to make any benefit from those taxes. So you have tax exempted zones as well, right? So again, they're not mandatory, but they can establish. 24, custom duty. So if you're taking any expensive objects into a new country, you know that country has the right to ask you to pay customs for it. So if you're a passenger and you're going to another country, they'll always have those boards. If you have more than $10,000 worth of goods, declare it and you'll have to pay duty and customs on it. If you declare that this is not something I'm going to leave behind in the country, this is going to be with me for a few days and I'm going to take it back with me, you don't have to pay customs. Imagine you're going to a country as a tourist and you've got a $50,000 camera, right? Yeah? You are flying into a country as a tourist and you are carrying expensive movie making cameras, $50,000 or more. Are you going to pay customs on that? You're just going there for 3 days, shoot and go out. But that equipment is not for sale in that country. Now, if you're carrying something into the country and you're going to leave that behind in that country, or you sell it to that country, or you're going to donate it or give it to a company based in that country, that product remains in that country. So you have to pay customs on it. Make sense? So all of those same rules which apply as a regular passenger will apply to you as a pilot, as an aircraft owner, and so on as well. Right? In your aircraft, you should always have spark plugs, a little bit of oil can. Imagine if the oil is a little bit low and stuff, you should top it up by yourself. You shouldn't have to buy it every time. So on board your aircraft, you'll have some spare parts. Maybe if the lights are broken, you want to change your own lights. If the spark plug is not working, you want to change that a little bit. So you're carrying certain goods in your plane, but not with the intention of selling it in that country where you're planning on landing. Those products should be exempted from customs anyways. That's what the rule is saying. Yep. Spare parts and equipments imported now. If you're carrying those spare parts to be sold in that country's local market, then yes, you have to obviously pay customs and taxes and all the regular